Lausanne, Switzerland, April 20th, 1946. The President, the White House, Washington, D.C. My dear Mr. President, we have the honor to transmit herewith the report of the Anglo-American Committee of Inquiry. Very respectfully yours, Joseph C. Hutchison, American Chairman, Frank Adelot, Frank W. Buxton, Bartley C. Crum, James G. MacDonald, William Phillips, Anglo-American Committee of Inquiry. Report. 2. The United States Government. His Majesty's Government in the United Kingdom. Lausanne, Switzerland. April 20th, 1946. Page 1. Preface. We were appointed by the governments of the United States and of the United Kingdom as a joint body of American and British membership with the following terms of reference. 1. To examine political, economic, and social conditions in Palestine as they bear upon the problem of Jewish immigration and settlement therein and the well-being of the peoples now living therein. 2. To examine the position of the Jews in those countries in Europe where they have been the victims of Nazi and fascist persecution, and the practical measures taken or contemplated to be taken in those countries to enable them to live free from discrimination and oppression, and to make estimates of those who wish or will be impelled by their conditions to migrate to Palestine or other countries outside Europe. 3. To hear the views of competent witnesses and to consult representative Arabs and Jews on the problems of Palestine as such problems are affected by conditions subject to examination under paragraphs 1 and 2, above and by other relevant facts and circumstances, and to make recommendations to His Majesty's Government and the Government of the United States for ad interim handling of these problems as well as for their permanent solution. 4. To make such other recommendations to His Majesty's Government and the Government of the United States as may be necessary to meet the immediate needs arising from conditions subject to examination under paragraph 2 above, by remedial action in the European countries in question, or by the provision of facilities for emigration to and settlement in countries outside Europe. The governments urged upon us the need for the utmost expedition in dealing with the subjects committed to us for investigation, and requested to be furnished with our report within 120 days of the inception of our inquiry. Page 2. We assembled in Washington on Friday, January 4, 1946, and began our public sessions on the following Monday. We sailed from the United States on January 18th and resumed our public sessions in London on January 25th. We left for Europe on 4th and February 5th, and, working in subcommittees, proceeded to our investigations in Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Italy, and Greece. On February 28th, we flew to Cairo and, after sessions there, reached Jerusalem on March 6th. In Palestine, our sessions were interspersed with personal visits to different parts of the country, during which we sought to acquaint ourselves at first hand with its various characteristics and the ways of life of its inhabitants. Subcommittees visited the capitals of Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Transjordan to hear the views of the Arab governments and representatives of bodies concerned with the subjects before us. We left Palestine on March 28th and have concluded our deliberations in Switzerland. The detailed itinerary is shown in Appendix I. We now submit the following report. Table of Contents. Chapter 1. Recommendations and Comment. 2. The Position of the Jews in Europe. 3. The Political Situation in Palestine. 4. Geography and Economics. 5. The Jewish Attitude. 6. The Arab Attitude. 7. Christian Interests in Palestine. 8. Jews, Arabs, and Government. 9. Public Security. 10. General. Appendix. 1. Itinerary of Committee. 2. European Jewry Position in various countries. 3. Estimated Jewish population of Europe. 4. Palestine Historical Background. 5. Palestine Public Security. 6. The Mandate. 7. List of Staff. Maps of Palestine. 1. Relief. 2. Rainfall. 3. Population. 4. Land in Jewish population. 5. Land classification. Page 3. Chapter 1. Recommendations and Comments. The European Problem. Recommendation number 1. We have to report that such information as we received about countries other than Palestine gave no hope of substantial assistance in finding homes for Jews wishing or impelled to leave Europe. But Palestine alone cannot meet the emigration needs of the Jewish victims of Nazi and fascist persecution. The whole world shares responsibility for them and, indeed, for the resettlement of all displaced persons. We therefore recommend that our governments together, and in association with other countries, should endeavor immediately to find new homes for all such displaced persons, irrespective of creed or nationality, whose ties with their former communities have been irreparably broken. Though emigration will solve the problems of some victims of persecution, the overwhelming majority, including a considerable number of Jews, will continue to live in Europe. We recommend, therefore, that our government's endeavor to secure that immediate effect is given to the provision of the United Nations Charter, calling for universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. Comment. In recommending that our governments, in association with other countries, should endeavor to find new homes for displaced persons, we do not suggest that any country should be asked to make a permanent change in its immigration policy. The conditions which we have seen in Europe are unprecedented and so unlikely to arise again that we are convinced that special provision could and should be made in existing immigration laws to meet this unique and peculiarly distressing situation. Furthermore, we believe that much could be. Page 4. Accomplished particularly in regard to those displaced persons, including Jews, who have relatives in countries outside Europe, by a relaxation of administrative regulations. Our investigations have led us to believe that a considerable number of Jews will continue to live in most European countries. In our view, the mass emigration of all European Jews would be of service neither to the Jews themselves nor to Europe. Every effort should be made to enable the Jews to rebuild their shattered communities, while permitting those Jews who wish to do so to emigrate. In order to achieve this, restitution of Jewish property should be effected as soon as possible. Our investigations showed us that the governments chiefly concerned had, for the most part, already passed legislation to this end. A real obstacle, however, to individual restitution is that the attempt to give effect to this legislation is frequently a cause of active antisemitism. We suggest that, for the reconstruction of the Jewish communities, restitution of their corporate property, either through reparations payments or through other means, is of the first importance. Nazi occupation has left behind it a legacy of antisemitism. This cannot be combated by legislation alone. The only really effective antidotes are the enforcement by each government of guaranteed civil liberties and equal rights, a program of education in the positive principles of democracy, the sanction of a strong world public opinion, combined with economic recovery and stability. Refugee immigration into Palestine. Recommendation number 2. We recommend A. That 100,000 certificates be authorized immediately for the admission into Palestine of Jews who have been the victims of Nazi and fascist persecution. B. That these certificates be awarded as far as possible in 1946, and that actual immigration be pushed forward as rapidly as conditions will permit. Comment. The number of Jewish survivors of Nazi and fascist persecution with whom we have to deal far exceeds 100,000. Indeed, there are more than that number in Germany, Austria, and Italy alone. Although nearly a year has passed since their liberation, the majority, page 5, of those in Germany and Austria are still living in assembly centers, the so-called camps, island communities in the midst of those at whose hands they suffered so much. In their interests and in the interests of Europe, the centers should be closed and their camp life ended. Most of them have cogent reasons for wishing to leave Europe. Many are the sole survivors of their families, and few have any ties binding them to the countries in which they used to live. Since the end of hostilities, little has been done to provide for their resettlement elsewhere. Immigration laws and restrictions bar their entry to most countries, and much time must pass before such laws and restrictions can be altered and effect given to the alterations. Some can go to countries where they have relatives. Others may secure inclusion in certain quotas. Their number is comparatively small. We know of no country to which the great majority can go in the immediate future other than Palestine. Furthermore, that is where almost all of them want to go. There they are sure that they will receive a welcome denied them elsewhere. There they hope to enjoy peace and rebuild their lives. We believe it is essential that they should be given an opportunity to do so at the earliest possible time. Furthermore, we have the assurances of the leaders of the Jewish Agency that they will be supported and cared for. We recommend the authorization and issue of 100,000 certificates for these reasons, and because we feel that their immediate issue will have a most salutary effect upon the whole situation. In the awarding of these certificates, priority should as far as possible be given to those in the centers, and to those liberated in Germany and Austria who are no longer in the centers but remain in those countries. We do not desire that other Jewish victims who wish or will be impelled by their circumstances to leave the countries where they now are, or that those who fled from persecution before the page 6 outbreak of war should be excluded. We appreciate that there will be difficulty in deciding questions of priority, but nonetheless we urge that so far as possible such a system should be adhered to, and that, in applying it, primary consideration should be given to the aged and infirm, to the very young, and also to skilled workmen, whose services will be needed for many months on work, rendered necessary by the large influx. It should be made clear that no advantage in the obtaining of a certificate is to be gained by migrating from one country to another, or by entering Palestine illegally. Receiving so large a number will be a heavy burden on Palestine. We feel sure that the authorities will shoulder it, and that they will have the full cooperation of the Jewish Agency. Difficult problems will confront those responsible for organizing and carrying out the movement. The many organizations, public and private, working in Europe will certainly render all the aid they can. We mention UNRRA especially. Cooperation by all throughout is necessary. We are sure that the government of the United States, which has shown such keen interest in this matter, will participate vigorously and generously with the government of Great Britain in its fulfillment. There are many ways in which help can be given. Those who have opposed the admission of these unfortunate people into Palestine should know that we have fully considered all that they have put before us. We hope that they will look upon the situation again, that they will appreciate the considerations which have led us to our conclusion, and that above all, if they cannot see their way to help, at least they will not make the position of these sufferers more difficult. Principles of government. No Arab, no Jewish state. Recommendation number 3. In order to dispose, once and for all, of the exclusive claims of Jews and Arabs to Palestine, we regard it as essential that a clear statement of the following principles should be made. Page 7. 1. That Jew shall not dominate Arab and Arab shall not dominate Jew in Palestine. 2. That Palestine shall be neither a Jewish state nor an Arab state. 3. That the form of government ultimately to be established shall, under international guarantees, fully protect and preserve the interests in the Holy Land of Christendom and of the Muslim and Jewish faiths. Thus Palestine must ultimately become a state which guards the rights and interests of Muslims, Jews and Christians alike, and accords to the inhabitants, as a whole, the fullest measure of self-government, consistent with the 3 paramount principles set forth above. Comment. Throughout the long and bloody struggle of Jew and Arab for dominance in Palestine, each crying fiercely, "This land is mine," except for the brief reference in the report of the Royal Commission, hereinafter referred to as the Peel Report, and the little evidence, written and oral, that we received on this point, the great interest of the Christian world in Palestine has been completely overlooked, glossed over, or brushed aside. We, therefore, emphatically declare that Palestine is a holy land, sacred to Christian, to Jew, and to Muslim alike. And because it is a holy land, Palestine is not, and can never become, a land which any race or religion can justly claim as its very own. We further, in the same emphatic way, affirm that the fact that it is the Holy Land sets Palestine completely apart from other lands, and dedicates it to the precepts and practices of the brotherhood of man, not those of narrow nationalism. For another reason, in the light of its long history, and particularly its history of the last 30 years, Palestine cannot be regarded as either a purely Arab or a purely Jewish land. The Jews have a historic connection with the country. The Jewish national home, though embodying a minority of the population, is today